In a world that is just obsessed with likes, filters, and selfies, some people stay completely invisible. We're talking no pictures, no updates, no public announcements. They are, for all intents and purposes, social media ghosts. But here's the thing. This isn't random. It's a choice. And today we're going to decode the psychology behind it. So let's pull back the curtain and really understand the why behind all that digital silence.
So seriously, what is the deal? I mean, have you ever been scrolling through your feed and you notice that one friend who just never posts? Like, ever? You know they exist, right? But their digital footprint is pretty much zero. Why is that? What's going on there?
Our first instinct is to jump to conclusions, isn't it? We see that empty profile and we think, oh, they must be shy or maybe insecure or, a little antisocial. But psychology completely flips that script. It suggests this choice isn't about weakness at all. In fact, it often points to someone who is incredibly self-aware, strategic, and actually deeply secure.
Okay, let's dive into the mindset behind this choice. Because it's really not about a fear of being seen, it's much more about a conscious decision to protect their own mental space and their personal story. This is the psychology of privacy.
So first off, these individuals are what we'd call internally anchored. What does that mean? Well, their sense of self, their confidence, it isn't tied to that little dopamine hit you get from likes and comments. Their confidence comes from the inside. It's self-generated, so they feel stable even in the silence.
They're also what you might call comparison resistant. There's a thing in psychology called social comparison theory, which is basically the constant and kind of stressful habit of measuring our own lives against other people's perfect highlight reels. Well, by choosing not to post, these people are consciously opting out of that whole game. They're choosing peace over performance.
And get this, they are the absolute masters of their own story. Think about it. A photo just shows one moment, one angle, right? Non-posters, they really don't like being defined by a single curated image. For them, controlling their image isn't about hiding anything. It's about keeping full ownership of their identity.
So, if we put all these pieces together, a really clear picture starts to form. We're looking at someone who's emotionally secure, a long-term thinker who gets how permanent the internet is, and usually a pretty keen observer who values a deep conversation way more than superficial likes.
So, we've seen all these powerful psychological traits. But what if I told you this isn't just some random collection of characteristics? What if this is all part of a larger, really coherent system? Let's dig into the one theory that ties it all together.
That's right. This behavior, this very conscious choice to stay private, it's actually a super sophisticated strategic system. And believe it or not, it's explained perfectly by a really groundbreaking theory from the world of communication studies. It's called Communication Privacy Management Theory, or CPM for short. It was developed by a brilliant researcher named Sandra Petronio. And at its core, CPM explains how all of us, every single day, make decisions about what we reveal and what we keep secret. It is all about managing personal boundaries. So this whole theory is built on 5 core ideas. First, we believe we own our private info. It's ours. Second, we create personal rules to control it. Third, and this is key, when we share that info, other people become co-owners. Fourth, now all the co-owners have to negotiate the rules for sharing it further. And fifth, when those rules get broken, well, we get something called boundary turbulence. Now, to really get this, CPM uses a super simple but powerful metaphor: boundaries. Just picture your private life as a territory, and you're building walls and fences to protect it. As Petronio herself puts it, these boundaries are basically the lines we draw between what's private and what's public. So every single decision to post or not to post is an act of managing that boundary. And this brings us to a really important distinction. There are 2 types of boundaries. A personal boundary is what you keep just for you. It's thick, it's rigid, it's secure. But the second you share something, like posting a photo, you create a collective boundary. And this new boundary, it's much thinner, it's more permeable, and it now includes co-owners. So managing that collective boundary, well, that takes coordination. You have to agree on its permeability, like how easily can this be shared again? You establish linkage, who's now connected to this info, and you define ownership, who has the right to control what happens next. It's this complex social contract we all sign up for, whether we realize it or not.
So why do we even risk making our boundaries so leaky? Well, research shows it's usually for pretty simple reasons. Finding fun content, promoting our work, sharing something we're proud of, or just feeling a little less alone. And these, right here, are the exact pressures our social media ghosts are strategically choosing to sidestep. So what happens when that boundary coordination just completely fails? You get this: boundary turbulence. It's the conflict, the stress, and the anxiety that just erupts when our privacy rules are broken.
And turbulence can be caused by anything, really, from just having unclear rules between friends to accidental leaks to someone intentionally breaking your trust. And, a huge driver of this in the digital world is that fear of missing out, or FOMO, which pressures us all into lowering our boundaries and just plain oversharing.
And this brings us right back to where we started. We can finally see the behavior of people who don't post, not as a weakness, but as a total mastery of their own privacy playbook. And this, right here, is the crucial takeaway. Choosing not to post is not a passive thing. It's an active, strategic decision to manage one's personal boundaries in a world that is constantly screaming at us to tear them down.
They are making a very conscious choice to keep that personal boundary thick and strong. And what does that do? It prevents all that boundary turbulence that shows up as online judgment, that endless comparison cycle, and that low-grade anxiety that so many of us feel every day.
Ultimately, it really all comes down to this powerful idea. For them, being visible online is not the same thing as being truly connected or valued. They don't need to be seen by the crowd to feel seen by the people who actually matter. And that, right there, that's real confidence. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one question to think about. You, and you alone, are the owner of your personal story. So after everything we've talked about, what are your rules for sharing it?